didn't expect much from a small Lord of the Rings trick-taking card game, but after playing it, I realized something surprising. It was a lot easier to learn than I thought, and it might be one of the best family co-op card games out there. Fellowship of the Ring is a cooperative trick-taking card game that sees players attempting to work together to complete specific objectives on different character cards while working through several chapters of the story of the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring. The story is actually just small excerpts on the back of cards, so you'll have to play the game to see that. How are we going to go about completing these different objectives and making our way through this story? Let's head to the rules rundown to find out. Come on. Here you have a game of the Fellowship of the Ring set up for 2 players. Each player has a deck of cards, and then a ghost player here in the center. If this were 3 or 4, each player would just have their own hand of cards. You're then going to choose a chapter. Here we have just the first chapter set up, and each of these chapter cards, when you grab them, they're going to give you a quick story beat on one side, and then they will give you the characters that you need, and then the victory condition. Many of them will just be the short victory condition where you only have to complete the objective for a specific character. Some will be a long form where you'll have to play several rounds while completing each character's objective. Now over here you're going to notice some characters that have an asterisk next to them, and these guys have one of these little star tokens placed on them, and that means that they have to be chosen. And then these other 2 are just options for the 3 and 4 player games. Now you'll notice up here, as you shuffle, you'll put 1 card over here and then deal out the rest. So each game there will always be 1 card that is not in hand, unless of course you have somebody like Gandalf here who immediately breaks that rule due to this guy down here where he gets to add that lost card to his hand. Now after all the cards are dealt out, each player is going to look at their hand, and whoever ends up with the 1 ring card is going to take Frodo every time. So Frodo is going to come over here. You're going to get this token on its gray side that will get flipped eventually, which we'll talk about in a bit. And then everyone else going clockwise will get to choose their character in a 2-player game. Whoever is Frodo is going to control the ghost player as well as choose the character that they would like. Now when choosing your character, it is important to note their objective, to check over your hand, see if that's something you can do. For Bilbo here, you want to win 3 or more tricks. Gandalf, nice and easy, you just have to win 1 or more. And then Pippin is one that you need to win the fewest tricks, or at least tie for the fewest tricks, and that does count if you only win 0 tricks. You'll go through that, check your hand. Maybe you see down here the ghost player has a couple of high cards. Maybe they take Bilbo, and then maybe this guy over here just wants to go easy and takes Gandalf. Now once everybody has chosen their characters, there's a step that I am absolutely horrific at remembering, but each of these characters will tend to have one of these hammer icons down here, which is something that is done after all the characters are chosen. Bilbo has no special effect there, but if you'll note, Gandalf over here, he adds the lost card to his hand and can exchange with Frodo. And what that means is that Gandalf can look into his hand and decide which of these cards he would like to give to Frodo. Maybe he knows Frodo wants to gather ring cards, so he would exchange this high ring card over to Frodo. Frodo will take that into his hand and will then, without telling Gandalf, or Gandalf can't ask for anything, Frodo will just decide to exchange this card with Gandalf. Frodo has to keep the 1 ring. He cannot exchange that one. Once the exchanges are taken care of or any other condition is fulfilled, then you move on to the gameplay. And Frodo, he is always the lead character, which means he's going to need to do the lead suit. So maybe he'll look at his hand. He doesn't need to win much. He's just looking to win ring cards. So he might just play a low mountain card here. That is now the lead suit that each other character must play into if they have one. So you'll go to Gandalf here, and he will play his only mountain card. That's what he has to play. So he'll play that down, and then Bilbo, Frodo, whoever's playing Frodo, will control Bilbo and play down this 2. Gandalf played the high card, the 7, so he will then take that into his hand, and he's already completed his objective, so you could put this down on his character card in order to show the rest of the players that, hey, I'm good to go. We just need to focus on everyone else. So Gandalf, he might look into his hand here and decide, oh, Bilbo needs to win, so let's go with this shadow card. We'll play a low one here and just see what happens. Hopefully Frodo has a small one. Frodo will play the 4 shadow into there, and then Frodo will look into his hand and see he does not have a shadow card, so he can then play any card into the pile here. And so he might play this 7 forest, and even though it's the highest card, since it does not match the lead suit, the win would still go to the highest card of the lead suit. Now what Frodo could also have done in this instance is play one of these ring cards. Due to this token here, you cannot lead with a ring card until a ring card has been played. So what Frodo could do here is he could play this 1 ring since he has no other option for shadow, flip this over, and he can then lead in future suits. He could also play that here, and the 1 ring card states that he can choose to win the trick if he wants, even if it's not part of the lead suit. So that's a really powerful card, very helpful for Frodo, who needs to win a lot of these cards. So that's also an option he could have taken. Let's just say he does play that out there so that Bilbo can win one of his 3 tricks. And that's basically the game as you keep playing through. Let's say Bilbo won that one. He'll go ahead, play this 8, and then Frodo, he'll be like, you know what, now's the time. Let's go ahead and play that. He's going to choose to win it. It would come back over to Gandalf, who would look in here. Oh, he sees Frodo's going to be winning, so let's go ahead and just slide that in there so Frodo can get a couple of his cards, and this would come on over here. Frodo would then be the lead player again. And as you maybe have noticed, whoever wins the trick leads the next trick. Then over here for the ghost player, as you completely uncover these cards, you then get to flip these over, so you get more options as the game goes. And that's just how the game plays. Very simple, very straightforward. Now that you have an idea of how to play the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking card game, let's get into the good, the bad, and the biblical. This is a section where I tell you about things I enjoyed, things I didn't enjoy so much, as well as providing a little bit of a parent's guide on certain aspects of the game, like language or just anything that wouldn't be considered Christ glorifying. I always enjoy starting out with the components with these games. It's the first thing I look at. And the first thing my wife and I thought as we unboxed the Fellowship of the Ring was it felt like a very luxurious package. The outside of the box felt really nice. The stained glass nature on the box and on the cards really lent itself to that high class feel. And then in the box there's 3 different sections that have really nice felt bookmark style pulleys that you can use in order to pop the cards easily out of the game. It can be a little fiddly at times trying to get the cards back in just right, but they just have a nice feel to them. The whole package just feels great component wise. But components only get you so far. The gameplay is what really drives any game home, right? So this game is very simple. This was my wife and I's first foray into the realm of trick-taking card games. So we weren't exactly sure what to expect. So this was a really good first experience. The rulebook did a great job explaining how these games work, and my wife and I picked it up very quickly. It's a very simple concept of just playing a lead card out. If you have it, you have to play it. If you don't, then you can choose a different card to play, which really lends itself to, in this cooperative feel, of figuring out, all right, how can I get rid of these certain cards so that I don't win these certain tricks? Since I have these high cards, I need to be able to wait till I can get rid of those. And it just leads to fun puzzles like that, especially with Frodo and those ring cards. when you can't lead those rings until somebody else has to play it into a trick that they don't have a lead suit for. So that's just really interesting timing of like, oh, now's the time. Is Frodo able to play that one ring so I can drop the 5 ring in here so he can be sure to win that, so he can get the cards that he needs. And it just has really fun puzzly elements like that. And speaking of the puzzle, there has a wide variety of puzzles in this game with so many characters. As you go through 18 different chapters, you're getting new characters in every single one of them. You'll have new characters pop in and out, but I think you get new ones in each one. For sure, most of them you're getting new characters. So you're going to have this plethora of different cards that you can play, different objectives to try to complete. And once you work your way through the chapters, they have a way where you can just play one-off scenarios, as it were, with the different characters, specific cards and stuff like that. So there's a lot of gameplay going on inside the box. And I do really enjoy the challenge level of the game. That has a little bit of luck to it, probably more in the 2-player game, just with the setting up of the pyramid. There's been a couple of times my wife and I played this game and we've lost just because the last card that gets flipped over in the pyramid is a card that's like, oh, well, we're going to get got. There's no way we can win this way. Whereas in a 3-player game, then obviously a player would have access to all those cards and be able to play that sooner if they wanted to. But then there's also that aspect of, in a 2-player game, you also have a little bit of that information already available to you, so the two of you can see 1/3 of the information to be able to make decent planning on what you're playing out. So there's a give and take on that with a 2-player game. But overall, the challenge level was really nice, where it didn't feel like a cakewalk. You did have to think a little bit, but it wasn't so challenging that it was like, stop and grind your gears in order to get the right card down. Very solid strategy level for a quick, light card game. And I also like that about the game, the fact that these rounds last maybe 20 minutes. The short ones where it's a single round, it really is going to be 10 to 15 minutes probably. And then some of the different chapters will be 3 or 4 rounds in order to win. So those would get up to the 45-hour mark, maybe, depending on how quickly you're playing or how many players you have at the table. I really enjoyed the theming as well. It came across very strongly, I believe, in a very small package. Hey, thanks for watching this video here on Faith and Board Games. If you're enjoying the content that you are seeing, feel free to hit that thumbs up and subscribe button. It's a free way for you to show support for the channel, and it just helps me be able to produce more of this content for you. Thanks once again for watching here on Faith and Board Games. Let's get back to the video. And that's what I have for the good. For the bad section, I already mentioned a couple of these things. Component-wise, love it, other than the fiddliness of the cards and those strings. But then the gameplay, they have the randomness with the 2-player game, and I imagine that goes away with the 3, and then it just adds a little bit to the challenge. But then the other thing that I have is, as you work your way through the different chapters, like I mentioned, you're going to be getting a ton of characters unlocked. And as you play back through, it gets a little awkward when you have certain characters that you're pulling from previous chapters. I struggled figuring out exactly how I wanted to store this. If I just pulled out all the characters, so I had one stack of characters that I had to search through to find the right names that I needed. So that was a little frustrating as you kept going further into the game, but that's a minor gripe. And that's really all I have for the negative for this game. The biblical section, there's not much going on. This is Lord of the Rings, so you're going to have Gandalf in there, who is a wizard. There's not really anything that points to magic that I found in the Fellowship of the Ring. It's really just straightforward, real quick excerpts of the story and plot and stuff that'll mention the wizard. But other than that, it's just a card game with a Lord of the Rings theme slapped on top of it. That'll do it for the good, the bad, and the biblical. For my rating of the game, I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. The only reason it's coming down is A, the shuffling through the cards, and B, this is just not my go-to style of game. When I want to sit down and play a game, I'm thinking more of a bigger board game feel. But this game, for what it is, for a very quick card game, where you're just going to be able to throw some cards out and have a good time trying to get into your partner's head to solve these problems. Really enjoyed that. So that's my rating of the game. Who is this game for? This is going to be a game for gamers that enjoy a solid gaming experience in a short amount of time. I would put it on the same scale as like an Agent Avenue, where you just have a deck of cards, but you have a really satisfying experience in that short amount of time. This is also going to be obviously a great choice for gamers that enjoy trick-taking games. That also provides a lot of variety. This would be not a game for gamers that don't enjoy trick-taking games. Obviously, what are you doing watching this video unless you just really want to find that one you like, I suppose. But it's either that or you don't enjoy fiddliness of searching through different cards. You just want to be able to grab a box like Agent Avenue, where it's just like, hey, here's the box, shuffle up, let's play. And you don't have to sort through different stacks and stuff like that. That would be something I would look out for if you don't enjoy that kind of stuff in a game. That's going to do it for my review of the Lord of the Rings Fate of the Fellowship trick-taking card game. Thank you so much for watching here on Faith and Board Games. I'm Tyler Collum. And until next time, don't forget to snag those rings and stay awesome.